In Venezuela, the electoral process begins with Sunday's voting drill for the upcoming July 28th elections. In Bolivia, the anti-corruption courtroom ordered preventive detention for 3 former military chiefs accused of participating in Wednesday's attempted coup d'etat. And in Palestine, Israel intensifies its bombardment of Palestinian civilians, killing several people in Gaza as the humanitarian crisis deepens. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSur studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the electoral process begins with Sunday's voting drill for the upcoming July 28th elections. President of the National Electoral Council, Luis Amoroso, reported that citizens will be able to vote in any of the electoral centers set up for the drill. At the same time, Amoroso denounced that some presidential candidates do not respect the Venezuelan constitution nor the electoral laws during the election process. In this sense, the head of the judicial body invited citizens and international observers to participate in the electoral drill.
Today, we feel proud because tomorrow, Sunday, June the 30th, we will have simulation of Election Day. All Venezuelans. By the way, there are many observers here in our country, people who respect the Constitution, who respect the law, who respect the Venezuelan people, which is the most important thing. We also invite them to take part tomorrow in the elections drill on Sunday, June 30th.
The head of the electoral body of Venezuela, Luis Amoroso, affirmed that the only requirement to vote in this drill is the identity card.
The only requirement to participate in the simulation tomorrow is the identity card, even if it is expired. Not that we are going to pass as sometimes we always do. I have an expired identity card. So you hear someone out there, you are not going to be able to vote. No. The only requirement is the identity card, even if it is expired. And in the case of the simulation, the international observers will be invited, and they will be able to see. They will stand behind, and they can familiarize themselves with what they are coming to see.
Venezuela is holding this June 30th an electoral drill in preparation for July 28th presidential elections. From the South brings you some context. Let's see.
The National Electoral Council set up 1,174 polling centers to verify the operation of the computerized voting system. The 23 states of the country will participate in the event. In the capital district only, there will be 94 polling centers and 228 polling stations. Unlike on the election day, in this exercise, residents will be able to go to any polling station to familiarize themselves with the voting system. The drill invites more than 21 million of Venezuelans to learn about the process for exercising their right to vote on July 28th.
A bridge of communication has been built through music between China and Venezuela. Our ally media CGTN prepared the following material on the occasion of 50 years of relations between the two countries.
My name is Xu Lian, and I am a teacher and resident conductor of the Jinfan Symphony Orchestra of the Beijing 101 School, founded in 1988. The mission of the Jinfan Symphony Orchestra is to provide students with professional training. The orchestra is not just an amateur club for children, but represents the highest level of student orchestra in Beijing. It promotes aesthetic education in primary and secondary schools throughout the city. The role of music is to help people perfect or refine their soul. This is my perception.
I have been involved in music since I was in third grade, almost 9 years ago. When you practice a piece every day, the piece accompanies you. Little by little, you get closer to the personality of the composer, to his character, to the spirit and the ideas he transmits. It's as if you were communicating with the composer through time and space. That makes me very happy.
According to XU, the orchestra updates 3/5 of its repertoire every year. Besides practicing Western symphonic classics, as an all-Chinese orchestra, the students also perform Chinese classics.
We tell Chinese stories with Western instruments, so we also rehearse classic with revolutionary themes. For example, Red Detachment of Women, the Piano Concerto, The Yellow River, or Ode to the Red Flag. Our repertoire is a combination of Western and Chinese music. In May of this year, we are holding a concert in which we will perform mainly Chinese pieces. After talking to the Venezuelan musicians last year, we felt that their encore was very good. An American piece of music called Mambo, very fun and classical. We are going to play this piece as an encore. This is the consensus that came out of our exchange.
International musical exchanges can often inspire new ideas. November last year, Venezuela's Simón Bolívar Symphony Orchestra went to the 101th school in Beijing to perform the first movement of Brahms' No. 4 Symphony in E minor with the Jinfan Symphony Orchestra.
The director of the Venezuelan oboe talked to me. I played him a piece I was practicing, and he gave me some instructions. Thanks to these exchanges, we have become closer friends.
The Venezuelan musicians are young, only a few years older than us. I feel that they love music from the bottom of their hearts, and I hope to work with them again, either on stage or in other ways, so that we will have emotional and spiritual resonance. I also wish to have the opportunity to go to Venezuela to perform Chinese music.
The impression I got from Venezuela is that they are very enthusiastic. Their conductor seems to be young, in his 30s, but when he conducts, he is very passionate and can drive the whole orchestra. It is something very valuable for our students to learn from him. Music is a bridge between two countries. We can communicate through musical understanding. The most famous conductor in Venezuela is Gustavo Dudamel, who was the music director of the Simón Bolívar Symphony Orchestra, and he is one of the best conductors in the world. If our kids have the opportunity to communicate with masters of that level, it would be very beneficial for them. I welcome more Venezuelan artists to come to China for the changes, and I would be very happy if they would also come to the 101 school as guests.
Let's take now a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSur English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Bolivia, the anti-corruption courtroom ordered preventive detention for 3 former chiefs of the armed forces accused of participating in the attempted coup d'etat of last Wednesday, June 26. The Court of Anti-Corruption and Violence Against Women of Bolivia was in charge of the procedural act in which the former military members were judged for the crimes of terrorism and armed uprising. The indicted are the former commander of the Army, Juan José Zúñiga, and the former commanders of the Navy and Mechanized Division of Yasha, Juan Arnes and Edisol Iraola. The preventive detention will be implemented for 6 months in the maximum security prison of John Chocoro in La Paz. During an interview with a U.S. media outlet, Bolivian President Luis Arce denounced the military coup plotters intended to place one of the former commanders as president of the republic.
La intención era tomar el gobierno.
The intention was to take over the government, to be president, if you will. This contradicts the statement, which I believe is skillfully used to give an argument to the opposition, and that they will precisely try to put that issue in the minds of Bolivians.
The Bolivian head of state also added among the people who collaborated with the coup were retired members of the military and civilian personnel.
It is very significant that in the meeting where the decision was taken at 10 o'clock in the morning, on the day of the coup, there were not only military personnel gathered, there were retired military officers, and there was civilian staff in that meeting, which is what is being investigated. That is to say, there are the material authors, but there are also civilians who have been behind the coup d'etat. That is clear.
In Mexico, President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum spoke out in defense of the Mayan train project and qualified it as unique in the world and of great importance for the country. In an event led by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, Sheinbaum highlighted that the Mayan train is a symbol of Mexico's deep history and vindicates the indigenous peoples of the present. She also defended the fact that the development of this project provides labor benefits to Mexican workers who are participating in its construction. Furthermore, Sheinbaum added that while in the past the train service was privatized, in the fourth transformation, the role of the Mexican state was recovered.
There is embedded meaning in the great infrastructure. It is a symbol of transformation, turning the page on the unsustainable neoliberal model that caused so much damage to the nation and so much suffering to our people, while in the past the railroads were privatized, which meant the end of the passenger train. With this present transformation, the role of the state is reinstated.
In Honduras, President Xiomara Castro, during the ceremony to commemorate 15 years of resistance, strongly condemned the coup d'etat against former President Manuel Zelaya that established the dictatorship in the nation. During her participation in the event, the President thanked the 16 progressive leaders for their support in the activity and emphasized the need to continue the struggle against imperialism through the social revolution. The Honduran President also emphasized that an organized people in resistance is an invisible weapon against any threat or attempted attack against national sovereignty. She also recalled that on this important day, the sacrifice of martyred men and women who fought in the streets against the coup must be acknowledged.
Today, we commemorate 15 years of the infamous coup d'etat, of the support of hundreds of thousands of men and women who fought in the streets for the return of democracy and the defeat of the coup. We honor the blood of our martyrs.
We have a fast short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly, share the link to reach more people. Comes on news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Fast short break, don't go away. In France, voting got underway in the overseas territories Saturday in high-stakes parliamentary elections. Residents of the tiny French archipelago of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon located off the coast of Canada, were the first to cast their ballots in the first round of the election. The elections come after French President Emmanuel Macron called for a snap vote triggered by a crushing defeat to Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party at the European Parliament elections on June 9th. Polls suggest the elections will confirm the trend as National Rally Party leads strongly with 36% of the vote, followed by left-wing bloc Nouveau Front Populaire at 28.5%.
You know, we're always waiting for something to improve in our lives, especially in everyday life. We're waiting for an improvement. When you see all the prices soaring, and purchasing power doesn't. So we ask ourselves questions. And where are we going? And on that score, we really want to see an improvement, and we're also thinking about our children's future.
In Mongolia, over 2 million voters took part on Friday's parliamentary elections. The ruling party won while the opposition had a strong performance. The ruling Mongolian People's Party won 68 seats out of a total of 126, securing a majority. The main opposition party, the Democratic Party, obtained more seats than in the previous elections. When polls closed, the Electoral Commission announced a turnout of 69.3%, anticipating that it would reach 70% with the polls cast at the last minute and those of Mongolians living abroad were added.
Therefore, for the first time in history, we have just elected 126 parliament members formed from various industries and different voices. Also, for the first time in history, 5 to 6 different political parties are going to be represented in parliament. This is a new page in the democratic debate.
In Iran, the presidency will be decided in a runoff election on July 5th between candidates Masoud Pezeshkian and Saeed Jalili. According to the Interior Ministry's Electoral Committee, former Health Minister Pezeshkian received more than 10 million votes ahead of Saeed Jalili, who obtained over 9 million votes. On Friday, more than 61 million people were called to vote and some 150 foreign media from 31 countries were present for the electoral process. The early elections took place 40 days after the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash. In Mauritania, citizens went to the polls this Saturday to elect the nation's new president. The polling stations opened at 7 o'clock in the morning local time to receive the nearly 1.9 million citizens called to vote in this day. The citizens had the opportunity to choose their new president from among 7 candidates, including the current president Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, who is seeking a second term. Ghazouani, a former soldier, has promised to accelerate investments to support a commodities boom and more economic growth, with many living in poverty despite Mauritania's fossil fuel and minerals wealth. Results are expected to be announced in the next few days. If no candidate manages to obtain at least 50% of the votes, a runoff election will be held on July 14th.
I would like to congratulate the people for their behavior, but also for the conditions and the climate of positive competition that marked the electoral campaign.
Israel intensifies its bombardment of Palestinian civilians. The latest attacks left several people killed in Gaza City as the humanitarian crisis deepens. Palestinian news agency Wafa reported at least 8 people were killed, including women and children, after the Israeli aircraft attacked a family home in the Al-Sabra neighborhood. It's been reported that the attack started early Saturday morning and that artillery hit homes in the Suhaya neighborhood. Meanwhile, the Al-Mawasi area, labeled as humanitarian zone by Israel, was again targeted by Israeli artillery, hitting makeshift shelters and agricultural greenhouses, leaving multiple casualties.
Last night, a house next to the medical center was bombed, causing serious damage to this center. The pharmacy, ophthalmology department, and emergency room were completely destroyed. Nothing is left but debris.
We were at home when we got a phone call instructing us to evacuate the house in 5 minutes without taking any belongings and without any prior warning. I tried to keep him on the phone as long as possible so I can get everyone out of here. We had 40 displaced here from Rafah. My relatives are all here.
And in Yemen, on Friday, hundreds of thousands of demonstrators gathered in the country's capital for a demonstration in solidarity with the Palestinians under attack in the Gaza Strip. People took to the streets of Sana'a to condemn the acts of the Zionist Army of Israel in cooperation with the U.S. government under the slogan, "There will be no dignity for the nation's people without a victory in Gaza." Demonstrators praised the popular mobilizations and demonstrations of support for Palestine that have been taking place in countries around the world like Jordan and Morocco. Since the start of the genocidal aggressions against the Palestinian people, the Yemeni Ansarullah movement organized solidarity demonstrations every Friday. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, the National Assembly has rejected the United States House of Representatives resolution regarding democratic processes in Pakistan. The Pakistani Congress issued a counter-resolution urging Washington to focus on pressing global issues like ending the genocide in Gaza rather than interfering in the internal affairs of other countries. The Pakistani parliament said the resolution issued by the U.S. shows ignorance and disregard for the political and electoral processes in Pakistan. Although the Pakistani National Assembly acknowledges the White House as an important partner, it reaffirmed Pakistan's independent and sovereign status and its commitment to bilateral relations based on mutual respect. And in Hungary, in downtown Budapest, devotees of the Hare Krishna Hindu movement celebrated the Chariot Festival, their largest annual celebration. Despite the heat, people gathered to sing and dance alongside a huge hand-drawn decorated cart. This celebration originated in the Indian city of Puri around Bengal Bay, dating back to thousands of years. Nowadays, the festival is held not only in India but all over the world thanks to the International Society for Krishna's Consciousness, best known as the Hare Krishna movement. During the celebration, devotees carried out special representation of the Krishna deity known as Jagannath, or the Lord of the Universe. Devotees taking part in the festivity believe they are clearing their karma from negativity brought on by past actions.
This Chariot Festival brings people together. The music, also the dance, and the cheerful celebration hand in hand. It can bring people closer. I think that in today's world, it is the shortcoming that we tend to keep our distance. We don't know each other, and we have become strangers.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.